What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you an incredibly spicy combination of White Forest with Eldlich, the Golden Lord. That's right, there's some very cool synergies between the two, because obviously the Whitewoods can send a lot of the Eldlich spells and traps, and specifically the one that you're going to get the most advantage off of is the back of the Cursed Eldland, to pretty much get you everything you need to go. With the Eldlich option, it does give you a little bit more control, but it also gives you another really kind of cool card in order to try and help you break a board going second, because being able to send the Eldlich plus a spell or trap to then get rid of one of your opponent's monsters, and then have the ability to revive it from the graveyard can be massively helpful. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. I'm going to take you through the profile, show you what we've got, and explain why we've got it as we go along. So you start off with the White Forest build, and the lineup you're going to go with is triple Estella alongside triple LZ. Now, for those of you that are familiar with the White Forest, you should know what they do by now, but basically Estella is one of your main starters, because this is the one that when you summon it, it then has the ability to send a spell or trap from the field or hand to the graveyard to special summon a light tune-up from the deck, and that's when you're going to be able, or specifically light spellcaster tuner from the deck, and that's how you're going to get access to your Sylvie, or of course it's also going to give you access to your Rusia. Your LZ is the one that lets it special summon itself from the hand by sending a spell or trap from your hand or field to the graveyard. And then, of course, on special summon, you get to add a White Forest monster from the deck to the hand. So that gets you into your starter. You could cut the Estella down a little bit if you wanted to. It's currently a 41 card deck, but if you're going to cut any of your starters down, I'd highly advise you cutting the Sylvie down. Now, the reason that I would consider cutting the Sylvie down if you feel that you're tight on space is that this one is still a good starter, because on normal or special you get to add a White Forest spell or trap from the deck to the hand, and that's how you're going to be able to add your White Forest searcher in the form of the Tails of the White Forest. And then you do need to be a little bit careful when you're going to try and activate Woes as well, because if you need to activate your Woes before you activate your Sanguine, because your Sanguine locks you into zombies for the rest of the turn. So you need to make sure you do them in the right order, otherwise you will be locked out of going into anything apart from zombies. So the Sylvie on top of that as well has the exact same quick effect as the Rusia from the graveyard, that if you control, if you have a White Forest Synchro monster in your graveyard or on the field, you get to return it to the extra deck and then special summon either of these back from the graveyard, but you negate their effects. We're still playing, of course, the one Iris Sword Soul. I just feel the ability to be able to unlock more access to a rank 8 play, if you want to, can be quite useful, as well as the ability of just summoning it down for free can be massively helpful to give you that ability of a form of disruption or a form of draw capabilities, should you need it. Then, of course, for the spells and traps, we're only playing one Tails and one Woes. The issue with Tails is it's only going to be effective while you control a spellcaster or an illusion. And when you're playing the Eldlich lineup, you're not really helping increase your consistency to do that. So this is one of them cards you don't really want to hard open unless you can already get access to something like your Estella. And if you can already get access to your Sylvie, you're pretty much already going to have access to this, unless it gets negated, and then you could obviously hope that you hard open it. But then that's where your Eldlich engine comes into play, because that's where the Eldlich will give you that ability to control your opponent if you do get hit on hand traps on here, or of course you can use the Eldlich cards to bait out said hand traps and then go all out on your White Forest cards as well. Speaking of the Eldlich lineup, so for the Eldlich lineup, we're playing 2 Eldlich, the Golden Lord, followed up by 3 of the Cursed Eldland. Now, this is the card that's going to give you the most synergy between the two, because this one allows you to pay 800 life points to add an Eldlich monster or a Golden Land. So that will give you the ability to search yourself out your Huequero or, of course, your Conquistador. And it will also help you get into your Golden Land forever, which just gives you a nice access to a counter trap, which you can kind of deal with a spell trap or a monster effect. So this, in form of the previous build, basically replaces the Visas Aritara kind of counter trap with the Manadium Refrained, and you kind of go for this one instead. On top of that as well, if it is sent from the spell or trap zone to the graveyard, you get to send an Eldlich monster or a Golden Land spell or trap from the deck to the graveyard. You can't declare attacks except with zombies while this card is face up on the field, so obviously being able to get rid of it with your White Forest is massively important. The idea is that if you start off with Cursed Eldland, activate the effect, people are going to be like, whoa, they're playing Eldlich in this format? What the hell? And then they'll probably try and stop this, and you go, okay, cool. Normal summon Estella or activate as LZ, send this, and then you're going to get a Foolish Berry off the back of this. And then you're also going to get the ability to resolve your Estella or your LZ because they've ashed this instead. So then, of course, we are playing 3 Elixir of the Scarlet Sanguine. Obviously, the idea behind all of the spells and traps for your Eldlich cards is being able to send them to the graveyard off of the back of your White Forest cards can be really useful, because they do all have graveyard effects. Obviously, Sanguine will have that ability to banish it from the graveyard and then set a Golden Land spell or trap directly from the deck. So you've got more ways of being able to get this to the graveyard as well, which is really important. But then, of course, you do have your Huequeros and your Conquistadors, playing 2 of each of these. And then these have the ability to summon themselves as a normal monster, as a zombie, but at level 5, which can be sometimes quite useful if you do want to make some synchro plays, but it does make some of the synchro levels in your extra deck a little bit awkward, so you're not really focusing on the level 9 synchros as much. On top of that as well, is during the end phase, except the turn this card was sent there, you get to banish it because you can only use basically one of the effects per turn, so you can only summon it or you get to banish it, which is really important. Obviously, this will give you the ability to banish one from your opponent's graveyard. This gives you the ability to pop a card your opponent controls. But then their graveyard banish effects is specifically during the end phase. You banish them to then set an Eldlich spell or trap directly from the deck. So this will give you access to your Sanguine, and obviously Sanguine gives you access to your golden lands. And then, of course, we've got the 1 golden land forever, like I said at the start. This one is when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated while you control an Eldlich monster. You tribute a zombie to negate the activation and destroy it. We are still playing the Toy Box engine in this build. I'm not sure how effective the Toy Box engine is going to be in this one. I just like the continued access to being able to have spells and traps that could be sent. Yes, of course, you'd probably want to start sending your Conquistadors and Huequeros turn 1, but once you've sent 1 to get you into your Elixir, that's pretty much it. Like, you don't want to send multiples of them. Whereas Toy Box gives you that ability straight on activation to give you 2 more spells that you can send, and then these are going to give you the ability to kind of loop back to the board, search out resources and everything else. So I thought you'd still probably rather want to play it than cut it completely, which is why I've gone with a 3 Toy Box and 1 tank and 1 soldier, rather than the 3 Toy Box, 3 soldier and 1 tank, just to kind of try it out and see if it still works the way I want it to, just because getting access to that resource is really important. Then, of course, we've got the 1 Call by the Grave, and then our lineup of hand traps, which is really adaptable to the environment you're taking it to. So we've got the Bestial engine of 1 Magnamute, 2 Druid Swarm, followed up by your Ash Blossoms and your Imperms. So as you can see that we've kind of taken out Draw and Lockbird from the previous build. We've taken out stuff like Forbidden Droplet, because we're not really relying on being able to negate many boards, because you'll be able to just set cards and then kind of play through it a little bit more with the Eldlich cards and try and break boards with the Eldlich as well. So it's something that I wanted to trial out and do a little bit differently. So that's it for the entire main deck. I'm now going to show you the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we'll start off with the non-synchro monsters. So we start off with 1 BLS Super Soldier. This is the only one, the only Link monster we're playing. Of course, it could be SP Little Knight if you wanted to, but the idea is you're going to be very easily able to access a level 7 or higher monster, and then being able to make this guy can be really important, because it gives you that ability that it cannot be destroyed by an opponent's card effect, which is really important, and it can't be targeted with card effects. And then when it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you get to activate the effect. It either gains 1500 attack points, it can make a second attack during the next battle phase, or it gets to banish a card on the field non-target. So it's a nice way of being able to clear off 2 monsters in 1, which is really, really important. And then we're playing a rank 8 in the form of the Hope Harbinger. So obviously this will be utilised through the Irish Sword Soul and the generic Synchro level 8 plays of the White Forest cards. And then the cards that you can now use because you're playing Eldlich the Golden Lord, which is of course a level 10. So you can use that with some of your Synchro level 10s, is of course going to be the Super Dreadnought, Rail, Cannon, Super Dora. And the reason I quite like this one is the ability to target a face-up monster on the field in general and then make it unaffected by card effects can be quite damaging for your opponent if they're trying to get rid of it, or if they're trying to like beat over it. So you can very easily just put Dora in defense and then use this as like a mini towers, which can be quite helpful for them to kind of stop your opponent just all in out OTKing you. But then obviously you don't need to rely on it too heavily, because you should still have access to your Sanguine and of course your Conquistadors and Huequeros and everything else in between. The Gustav Max for the 2k burn damage, and obviously the most important rank 10 that you can now utilise is of course the Varudras, the final bringer of End of Times. Now obviously the 10 you're going to be able to use is Eldlich the Golden Lord, but then you've also got access to 3 synchros from the extra deck. Now I'm not saying you're going to want to use these synchros to make it. The synchro you're probably going to want to use to make it more times than not will of course be your Chaos Angel, just because it's the easiest one to get out, and then it's the only one that doesn't really have a very effective lingering effect. Yes, of course, making all your Synchro monsters unaffected by your opponent's monster effects is quite useful, but when you can upgrade that with an Eldlich of the Golden Lord to make a generic Omni-Negate, you're probably going to take it rather than trying to overlay a Bestial Dispatter, and rather than trying to overlay the Arms of the Gen X Return 0, unless you really do feel that the Omni-Negate is going to be more important than a Negate or a Monster Negate off the back of these two. So quite like the previous profile, in order to make the Arms of the Gen X, we are of course still using the Immortal Dragon, but the best thing about the Immortal Dragon is it actually has double usage in this deck. So this one actually has an additional effect that during the main phase you get to send a zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard. And if you do, this card's level becomes the difference in the original level of that monster. So when you send a level 10 Eldlich, it basically turns this into a 4 because the difference will be 4 because you've got 6 and a 10. So you basically turn this into a level 4 tuner, which then helps you get into your level 8, but then alongside your bestials can also help you get into your level 10 still as well. So you're getting a very nice bit of flexibility should you want to, and it's putting Eldlich the Golden Lord into the graveyard. So that's how you can very easily make a level 10 synchro off the back of Immortal Dragon, and then also bring back the Eldlich the Golden Lord to overlay into a Varudras. Then for our other level 6s, we've gone with the Tri-Edge Master. So this is just a generic level 6. It gives you a draw when you're summoning it, because more times than not, you're going to use a level 2 and a level 4, which lets you draw 1 card. Of course, it can be Charge Warrior. There's no real difference between the two of them. Charge Warrior might be a very kind of cool option to utilize as well. So it really is up to you. And then the other level 6s we are playing is, of course, the Reselia and, of course, the Silver. So obviously the two of these are your main White Forest ones. So this one searches you out your White Forest or your Iris Sword Soul. And then this one is, of course, the Book of Eclipse during your opponent's turn. And then for our level 8s, we do play the 1 Cyflame Lord Omega, the 1 Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, and the 1 Diabell Queen of the White Forest. Now, obviously, all of your White Forests are very easily recyclable from the graveyard. The Berserker is just an incredibly powerful mini-boss monster that can banish your opponent's cards and basically get attack stat boosts. And then the Omega is in here to recycle some of your banished cards, especially if they banish your Eldlich the Golden Lord. Like, you just go, okay, cool, well, I'll put him back in the graveyard during the next standby phase. Or, of course, you can recycle your Conquistadors and everything else like that, which is really important. Not to mention, of course, you get the double hand rip off the back of the Bestial Dispatter, because you banish the Omega, and then you summon out Dispatter, Dispanger brings back Omega, and then Omega rips another one from your opponent's hand. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds to be able to regain and reloop your resource, as well as being able to rip 2 from your opponent's hand, which can be massively devastating, depending on what they're playing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it for the entire profile. I hope this has given you a couple of ideas on a spicy build to update it. I do like the idea of being able to dust off Eldlich a little bit, because I felt that Eldlich kind of... They really kind of fell out of a format. Like, it's not a deck that got massively weaker, I would say, in my opinion. It's just one of the ones that naturally got power crept and just naturally changed the way it was played. And when Bestials was introduced, it was a lot harder to deal with, especially when D-Shifter's running around as well. It can be a very tricky deck to kind of navigate, but it was kind of one of them ones that I was like, okay, let's dust this off, let's play this with the White Forest cards, let's give it a bit of a... Everyone's doing toy box versions online, which understandably so is probably one of the best and most direct routes without breaking the bank of a White Forest deck. But then I also thought that the Eldlich version could be really kind of cool to utilize and show off to you as well, to kind of show you the other rank 10s you can access and the direct synergy between the two. If you wanted to have a little bit of fun, if you wanted to dust off the Eldlich and you already picked up White Forest and you're like, okay, let's put these two together and see what you can come up with to kind of play around with it. So this will be a bit of a starter for you to kind of look at, trial out, and then build it in your own way, adapt it as you need, see fit. You might feel that you don't need the toy box engine, so you can cut that out completely, and that instantly becomes a 5-card engine that can become more board breakers. Heck, you could even main deck skill drain, because the worst thing about skill drain in this particular deck is you get a boss monster in the form of Eldlich the Golden Lord, and then you also have ways in the form of your White Forest to send this as cost. So even if you're not going to side it, you can decide to main it, and you become even more of a control style deck, which is a real big pain in the backside. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Do like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.